I've booked a Florida holiday. I did the same last year and I've done the same this year. It happens to coincide with Halloween, however, is the best time of the year for me to go. End of September leading into October. Now, this video is going to tell you exactly what I've paid, what I've looked at, and just some sort of hints and tips for people maybe looking to book to go over there. Let me make this perfectly clear. This won't necessarily be the cheapest way of you getting to Florida, but hopefully it helps. First of all, I don't book a lot in advance, only sort of 3 months in advance. I booked this in July. I did the same the year before as well. I never like to book a massive amount in advance. And to be honest, it doesn't make a lot of difference to the price. When you're looking, you will type into Google, Florida holidays, Florida holidays, Florida holidays, and you'll come up with lots and lots of options. And there are a couple of different ways of doing it. You can book flights, and then book hotels separately, then book part tickets separately, and then maybe book a car separately, and do it all kind of separate. You can do some combination, flight and hotel, maybe flight, hotel and tickets, maybe even the flight, hotel, tickets and car hire. Of course though, what works out cheaper? Well, I've done a lot, and I've looked on a lot of sites. There's a couple of good sites that you might go to, and reputable ones as well. I'm not interested in third-party ones, Sky Scanners or anything like that. I'm just interested in having a good holiday where I've got some comeback if something goes wrong. So I started with TUI. I booked with TUI last year. Had 11 nights away last year for just over £800 for flight and hotel. But that does go into Melbourne, and I have no bad words to say about the TUI experience. To be honest with you, it was really, really well put together. It had free transfer from the airport as well, which was good because it was an hour and a half drive. So I've got nothing bad to say about them. So I went back to TUI first. However, TUI dates this year aren't particularly good. Where I'm looking to fly on the day, they actually fly with another airline, not themselves. And if I wanted to fly with them, I'd have to go the day before, which quite frankly isn't possible. And then to get the 12 nights I want this year rather than 11, they're only doing 10 nights. So don't get me wrong, 10 nights they're doing an amazing price for if you can fly on a Sunday. As it happens, I should be flying on a Monday. So it kind of ruled TUI out, but there are some benefits to TUI that some of the other places, including the one I booked with, doesn't have. One of them, they do have free transfers, and they have free transfers from the airport to your hotel. And it may sound silly, but you'll see. You'll see where I've booked that perhaps it's not as silly as it sounds. That come out at about £1,100. So £1,100 for 10 nights. Believe it or not, now if you book last minute, you can get that for about £700, which is an absolute steal. And it flies into Melbourne, which is about an hour and a half away from International Drive. Of course, you can stay on site at Universal, you could stay on site at Disney. For me, I think International Drive is where I want to be. It's a lot cheaper to eat around, it's easy transportation to the parks. It's just a better place for me to be to get in and out of where I want to go. Now, when I went in 2014, I flew with British Airways. So I had a look at British Airways, and British Airways actually come out quite relatively well priced, bearing in mind obviously they are our national airline. They do flights and hotel pretty much every day of the week that you want to travel, quite honestly. There's a couple of days obviously they don't, but it's a lot more flexible than say TUI that are running a smaller operation. And of course when they're subbing out their planes, oddly enough, on the day I wanted to go, I would be flying with BA. It obviously goes up in price because it's not really their package. And I also checked Virgin holidays as well. Now Virgin for me has always seemed quite expensive on comparison to some of the other ones, but actually wasn't too expensive. So then it come down to do I want to fly from Heathrow or do I want to fly from Gatwick? Now living on the south coast, I'll be honest with you, I'd rather fly from Gatwick. Obviously depending on prices and everything as well. There's a couple of things to bear in mind with both Virgin and BA, and that is that transfers aren't included, and actually you add them on to the price at the end. The transfer for BA was £224, and it was pretty similar as well for Virgin, and that's transfers each way. So it's another 250 quid, say, on top of your price. Of course, I then decided whether or not I want flights, hotel, whether I want flights, hotel, car, whether I want flights, hotel, car, and tickets. And I've broken this down into a couple of different ways, in honesty. Flights and hotel, for me, absolute flat. You will get tickets cheaper somewhere else. Doesn't matter what package you book through the airlines, you will get tickets cheaper somewhere else. Now, just to throw it out there, I know Kurt is flying with Love Holidays next year, and I did have a look at Love Holidays, and they do tend to work out quite cheap. But when you look at the small print, there's even more that's not included, and that includes baggage up to a certain point, up to a certain size. You actually pay extra for baggage. On the holiday I wanted, with the airline that would have provided it, it would have been another £100 on top for baggage. So even though the package come out at about £50 cheaper, it would actually work out approximately £50 more expensive to do so. So I always like to take everything into account. What's it going to cost? Are there any hidden charges? And where am I going to stay? Now, in 2014, I stayed at the Rosen Inn International. Anyone looking at this video will probably have heard of that. And last year I stayed in the same place. It's a 3-star hotel. It's a no-frills hotel. They come with air conditioning, which is brilliant. And it's just got easy access to everything. The actual international one has the McDonald's right next to it, which is the largest in the world. It has CC's, which is incredible pizza, just over the way. Alcon Park's a couple of minute walk away. It's quite central to where it is, a couple of miles away from Universal. It's only a little trip away from SeaWorld. It's obviously about an hour and a half away from Busch Gardens because that's quite out and about, and it'd be the same for Legoland if you were visiting there. And of course, it's about 15-20 minutes from Disney. Now, as I said, I don't book straight away. I don't just sit down and do hours and hours of research and then go, right at the end, I'm going to book. I actually looked at some people that have booked before, just written, to be fair. I actually seen many videos around on this. And people said, check the times that you check the price, if that makes sense. And it came out, quite honestly, reading through quite a lot of threads, that Tuesday was a good day to book a holiday. And I know it sounds silly, but hear me out. You can now have a look on BA or have a look on TUI and just put in your Florida holiday and then check it again tomorrow morning and then check it again tomorrow night. It will not be the same price in the morning as it is night. The only times that we've noticed that sometimes this stays the same is when it's on sale. And when it's on sale, it does tend to say the exact same price. But as a general rule, I was looking in the morning and it was a lot more expensive than what it was in the afternoon. I don't know the reason behind this. I'm sure someone can tell me, but it was a lot more expensive. And it was without a doubt more expensive to book a holiday, as in physically pay for the holiday, not fly, on a Monday than what it was any other day of the week. In the end, I opted for British Airways. British Airways flight out of Gatwick. There wasn't too much of a price disparity, and I took a bit of a gamble because in July there was a sale on across Virgin, TUI and British Airways. And the holiday I was looking at was £960. So that was 12 nights in Florida, an international drive at the Rosen Inn International, flying into Orlando, which is only about 9-mile journey from international drive, so it's a lot shorter, sort of 15-20 minutes. £960. Now, last year I paid £840. That was only 11 nights, mind you, and I didn't do as much research as I did this year, to be perfectly honest with you. And I thought I'm going to wait for the sale to end and see what the price is. Because I thought it was quite expensive, to be perfectly honest with you. So the sale ended and it jumped up to £990. I thought I've made a massive mistake. Massive mistake. It ended on a Sunday. I checked on a Monday. So I thought I'm going to leave it a few days. I'm going to come away from the computer and leave it a few days. So I left it till the next week and I checked on the weekend and it was back down to sort of £940. It was pre-sale price. Now the sale was saving £150. So as it was only £50 cheaper in the sale than what it would have been. And then checked on the Tuesday. And lo and behold, it had gone down to £801.50. Final price, £801.50. I snapped it up and that's what I booked. So with that is flights and hotel, and that goes into Orlando International Airport. That also includes certain transfers as well from the hotel to the parks, but I'll get into that one shortly. And I opted not to go for the transfer. The transfer at £224 for 10 miles is ridiculous. I'll get an Uber, and I'll talk about Uber very slightly further down the line. Now, funnily enough, I punished myself and checked since for exactly the same holiday, exactly the same date, exactly the same flights. And at the current time of recording this, which is 2.5 months later, it currently sits over £900. I have seen it go down to $799.50, which would have saved me £2. You know, sometimes you take a gamble, but at £801.50 for 12 nights, I was really happy. Now, I speak to a lot of people that go £801 for 12 nights in Florida seems a bargain. Yes, it is. I personally think it is. It's not the cheapest hotel out there. I just want to throw that one out there now. They went as low as £720 for that period of time. One thing I will say is check the small print on the hotel when you're booking it online. The reason being, a lot of them have standing charges. A lot of them have charges for just deposits. So you'd have to put down a $50 or $100 deposit. It's not something I want to do. It bulks the price up massively. I kind of know what these places are like when I'm leaving. If you have an argument, there's absolutely nothing you do. You need to get to the airport. So I'm not interested in doing that, where the Rose Inn International doesn't have it, which was the reason for picking that. Now, the Rose Inn International gives free transport to SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Universal, not Disney. Funnily enough, in 2014 it did do Disney, but now it doesn't. So if you want free transport to them, you know, it's nice and easy. The bus comes around, you pre-book it the night before. Make sure you do pre-book it the day before, because if you don't, it gets full and you'll end up a bit stuck. To be honest, it's only a half-hour walk to Universal if you fancy a nice brisk walk in the morning, but you'll be doing 30,000 steps a day, so I probably wouldn't. Did I hire a car? No, I didn't hire a car. And there's a couple of reasons for not hiring a car. One, car outlay is quite large for the trip. Arguably, it's going to be about $25 to $30 a day, not seemingly massive, but it's quite an outlay for the trip in terms of adding to the cost. Now, last year, I used Ubers everywhere. We used an Uber, and we got really good value on Uber. You could get to Universal, SeaWorld for under $10 a journey. And you might say, oh, that's $20 a day. The car's only $27 a day, and you got to remember that a lot of these parks charge for parking. Now, the hotel doesn't, so you can park your car at the hotel, no problem. But Disney is up to $50 a day parking. Universal is $30+ a day parking. And while SeaWorld's free, when you think about the hiring of the car versus the parking, you're potentially looking at $60 to $80 a day for car and parking, as opposed to $20 for an Uber. And an Uber out to Disney as well, because we didn't have to get the Universal one, but it fits the time a bit better. But the Uber out to Disney was also only $12 to $18. And here's where my next tip comes in. Use an Uber. They're really easy on the app. They show up. There's no taxis out there, so the Ubers are all about the business. It was really, really easy to do. Had some lovely drivers. They can tell you sort of best times to travel. They can tell you when it's going to be really busy and not so busy, when you can get back quick. It was just so much easier than messing around. Obviously, we got the coach out to Busch Gardens because that was quite far to go, and it's free. So why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do that? But Uber, for me, was the way to go. And again, another quick tip is that some of the Disney parks are obviously further away than others. The closest one, I believe, being Epcot. So Epcot was about $12 to $13 on the Uber charge, whereas Magic Kingdom was $18 to $20 on the charge, which is really quite astounding, but it's quite a distance further. So just bear this in mind when you're there, that if you can get the monorail, depending on what time you're leaving, if you can get the monorail back from Magic Kingdom to Epcot, get the free monorail, save yourself $6, and then call your Uber from Epcot. The closest park to you, find out which Disney one it is, book your Uber to there, and then use the Disney free transport in the buses, monorail to get to where you want to go. Tickets are the most expensive part of your trip. There's no doubt about that, whether you just want to visit one or two or whether you want to visit all of them. People tend to say it's either one or the other. You either go to Disney or you go to Universal if you're on a shorter trip, or you kind of have to be on a longer 3-week plus trip to do it all. So I'm going for 12 nights, it's about 12 and a half days roughly given the flights, and I have decided to book Disney and Universal. I don't understand why you wouldn't do both, to be honest. And this time I'm not going to do the SeaWorld parks, which is SeaWorld and Busch Gardens. Well, I say I'm not going to do them. That's not strictly true, but I'll come back to that. So when you have a look, it's easier to book on one of the attraction sites. So Florida Tix and attraction tickets, which I'm sure you've heard of. These are easily the best sites to do. Don't rush your purchase on these. Once you book your flight and hotel, these will be available for quite a while, right the way up to sort of your day. We do recommend you book probably at least 3 or 4 weeks in advance, particularly on the Disney tickets. I'll come to that later, but it's just nice to have. However, they have a lot of flash sales randomly. I know some people say they're around certain times. They're not. They're completely random. And at the end of July, attraction tickets and Florida tickets had a flash sale. One was doing 6% off and one was doing 8% off. So in the end, the listed price was £860 for Disney and Universal tickets. And we got them for under £800 just by being patient. That £800 is 14 days, it's 7 days plus 7 free usually, but it's 14 days at Disney and Universal, which I think is a cracking buy. However, I am going to Howl Scream at SeaWorld, as it's just down the road. It's $47 with tax, and that's for an any night ticket. And of course, the reason why I'm going there, apart from the fact it's just down the road, is that the major roller coasters are open. They don't really have a lot of interest in what's going on in SeaWorld during the day. So yeah, I can go and ride Pipeline, and I can go ride Mako, and I can go ride Icebreaker at night, plus the mazes for $47, which I think is a bargain. And I booked that directly through SeaWorld. But one thing not a lot of people say as well is actually registering your tickets when you get them. It's really good to have the Disney and Universal and potentially SeaWorld app, although it's not good. To be honest with you, it's not good, but particularly the Disney and Universal ones. Your Disney tickets do need to be registered before you go. And by registered, we mean you'll need to go onto the Disney World website, put your ticket in, link it to your phone, and make sure your ticket is there. Very, very important to do before you go, or it's just going to be an absolute hassle when you get there. From there as well, you can start making plans straight away on the Disney app. You can start doing some planning. Although you can't book like lightning lanes from the UK, if you're traveling out there and you're not going to Disney straight away, as soon as you hit the ground in America and you're settled, you can start booking lightning lanes with everything in place. And again, on Universal, it's handy to have it on your phone, ready to go, no issues whatsoever. Old-fashioned way, you can print them, which is what I've done with SeaWorld, because getting our app to work is an absolute nightmare. So for SeaWorld, I've printed them. Quite simply, I've also taken a PDF and I'll take it on my phone that way. One thing as well, which we weren't told, which we didn't read, I'm sure it's somewhere in a small print, is when you get to Disney, you do need to have photo ID with you. Now, being like traveling to Disney, because you don't want to be carrying around too much with you, it's really, really handy that we had a picture of our passport on the phone, which they accepted. Had we not had that, we would have had to have gone and got something to prove we were who the tickets were actually allocated to, because you pop your names on the tickets and then your names are on the apps already. They're non-transferable. It's not like you can get away with anything when you go into both the Universal and Disney parks that take your fingerprint. So yeah, it's quite important that you're prepared for it. There we have it. That is the total price of the holiday. I say total price. There's obviously going to be some add-ons. I will put money aside, obviously, for Ubers, and I will put spending money aside. But that's the price. That's the price. Spending money is entirely up to you. Let us know. Let us know in the comments below. But as you can guess, there will be some content coming from Florida. Thank you for joining us. I hope this video has been helpful for you. We'll see you in Florida.